You're on your phone, half paying attention, checking your account balance the way you always do. Quick glance, no real expectation. And then you stop scrolling because for the first time, the number in front of you has 4 digits instead of three. 1,000. It's not a huge amount. It won't change your life. It won't buy a house or pay off your car or make your boss stop emailing you at 9 p.m. And yet, something about seeing it just sits differently. You look at it again just to make sure you read it right. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a very quiet, very confused thought shows up. Wait, why does this feel different? Here's the thing. That feeling is real. It's not you being dramatic, and it's not some manufactured excitement over a number that, realistically, isn't life-changing money. There's an actual shift that happens in how your brain processes risk, safety, and possibility the first time you cross from having nothing saved to having something saved. And once you understand what's actually happening, you'll understand why this specific milestone, more than almost any other early number, sets the tone for whether you keep building or slide right back to zero. I spend way too much time thinking about money, the psychology behind it, and why some people seem to build savings almost effortlessly while other people can save 1,000 twice, spend it twice, and never quite figure out why it keeps disappearing. If you've ever hit a small savings milestone and felt that weird, unexpected shift, or you're currently trying to get there for the first time, go ahead and hit subscribe and drop a thumbs up if this ends up helping you actually keep that first 1,000 instead of blowing through it. Let's talk about why 1,000 specifically hits differently than, say, $500 or $700. It's not really about the number itself. It's about what the number represents. Before you have any savings, every single dollar that comes in has a job. Rent, groceries, gas, that subscription you forgot to cancel, all of it. There's no dollar that exists purely as a buffer, purely as evidence that you're building something. Every dollar is already spoken for before it even lands in your account. This is what keeps your brain locked into what researchers call scarcity mode. You're not calculating your future, you're managing your present constantly because there's no slack anywhere in the system. The moment you cross into 4 figures, something shifts, and it's not really about math. $1,000 sitting in an account you're not actively spending down is the first tangible proof, not a promise, not a plan, actual proof that you are capable of accumulation instead of just survival. Your brain has been operating for years, maybe your entire adult life, under the assumption that money comes in and money goes out and there's never anything left over. $1,000 breaks that pattern for the first time. And breaking a pattern that deeply ingrained does something to how you see yourself, not just your bank account. Here's where it gets interesting, and this is the part most people never actually think about. The relief you feel at $1,000 isn't really about the dollar amount at all. It's about identity. Up until this point, if someone asked you, "Are you someone who saves money?" the honest answer was probably no, or at least not yet, or "I've tried, but it never sticks." The moment you're staring at that 4-digit number, the answer changes, even if just barely. You go from someone who intends to save to someone who has saved. That's an identity shift, not a financial one. And identity shifts are dramatically more powerful than financial ones because they change how you behave going forward, not just how much money you currently have. This matters more than it sounds like it should, because most saving advice completely ignores identity and just focuses on math. Cut this expense, redirect that dollar amount, follow this percentage rule. And sure, the math matters, but the math was never actually the reason most people fail to save. If it were purely about math, everyone with a stable income would have savings, and we both know that's not true. People with 6-figure incomes are broke. People making $40,000 a year have $10,000 saved. The difference was never purely about how much money came in. It was about whether someone saw themselves as the kind of person who keeps money instead of spending it. Let's get practical for a second, because understanding the psychology is only useful if it actually changes what you do next. Here's what tends to happen right after someone hits their first 1,000, and it's worth knowing about before it happens to you. There's a strong, almost magnetic pull to spend it. Not on anything urgent, necessarily. Just you've been disciplined for weeks or months, you finally have something to show for it, and some part of your brain decides you've earned a reward. Maybe it's a nicer dinner than usual. Maybe it's finally buying that thing you've been eyeing. Maybe it's just letting your spending creep back up for a few weeks because, hey, you've got a cushion now. This is the single most common way people lose their first 1,000, and it's not because they're bad with money. It's because the emotional payoff of hitting the milestone gets confused with permission to undo it. Nobody consciously thinks, I'm going to sabotage the progress I just made. It happens quietly, one small purchase at a time, until a few months later you check your balance and you're back to 3 digits, wondering where it all went, without ever remembering making one big mistake. It was never one big mistake. It was the accumulated effect of treating the milestone as a finish line instead of a starting line. So here's the reframe that actually works. And it's simple enough that you can apply it the moment you hit this number yourself. That 1,000 isn't a reward for the effort you already put in. It's the foundation for what that effort can build next. Think about what it actually unlocks that you didn't have access to before. A minor car repair stops being a crisis that gets put on a credit card. An unexpected medical copay stops derailing your entire month. A friend mentions a job opportunity in another city, and for the first time, you can actually consider it instead of immediately ruling it out because you have zero financial runway. None of these are dramatic, life-altering scenarios. They're small, ordinary moments where having $1,000 quietly changes the outcome instead of making everything worse. And there's also a compounding effect here that most people don't think about until it's already happened to them. The second $1,000 is measurably easier to save than the first, not because your income changed or because you suddenly became more disciplined. It's because you're no longer starting from zero, both financially and psychologically. You've already proven the mechanism works. You already know what it feels like to build instead of just survive. The identity shift that happened into your first 1,000 doesn't reset itself as long as you don't spend the milestone away completely. This is why the first $1,000 matters disproportionately more than the second, third, or fourth. It's not the biggest number you'll ever save. It's the one that has to happen before any of the others can. Now, if you're currently sitting at zero or close to it, and this all sounds a little abstract, let's make it concrete. You don't need a massive income change to get here. You need a repeatable habit and a place to put the money where it's slightly separated from your everyday spending, so it doesn't quietly get absorbed back into regular life. Even $25 or $50 a week gets you to 1,000 in well under a year. It's not fast, it's not exciting, but it's happening in the background, regardless of whether you're paying attention to it. The same way debt quietly grows in the background if you ignore it. The only real decision in front of you is which direction you want that background process working in. And here's something worth sitting with for a second. The version of you who hits 1,000 for the first time is not fundamentally more disciplined or more talented with money than the version of you right now. They just crossed a line that hasn't happened yet. That line isn't guarded by some special financial knowledge or some income threshold you haven't reached. It's guarded by consistency, applied for long enough that the number eventually catches up to the habit. So picture that moment again. You're checking your balance, half paying attention like always, and this time there's a fourth digit where there used to be 3. That small, quiet pause where you have to look twice. That's not a coincidence, and it's not nothing. It's the first real evidence that you're capable of building something instead of just getting by. Protect it when it happens. Don't treat it as the reward. Treat it as proof, and then keep going. Because the version of you on the other side of the next milestone is going to be even harder to talk out of continuing.